In 1976, when Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, and Ronald Wayne came up with their tagline, Think Different, wow, boy, did they not know what they were doing. Today, many of us, millions of us, hold that Apple phone because why? We have thought differently. Apple has placed a thought in our head with that famous tagline, Think Different. Boy, 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 I tell you and kid you not, if you think differently, your mind will heal that brain. I promise you. It certainly did mine, still doing mine, as long as I'm ready to change my mind. Hi everyone, I'm Toyino Kanuga, your self-realization mindset expert. That's right, I am your author of Hush to Roar. Thanks a lot again for joining me in all these sessions that I live and breathe. I believe it's my mission to share with you my personal story, to tell you the mistakes I've made so we don't reinvent the wheel of pain. It doesn't have to be you who changes your mind from doing something, but if someone can help you, I kid you not, trust me, you can heal. Again, I've got my slides here, I've got my notes so that I can make reference to them for you to go back and read them and see them. If it's your first time with me, thank you. Please, let's have a dialogue, comment, say anything. Let's just, let's talk. If you're new here, or even if you're not, you know that I'm studying a lot of courses in psychology. I'm mixing that with my biblical way of relationship with God, but also my story. It's my story that brings me here, and with a healing of what I'll say God through all my adverse childhood experiences, I'd like to now share with you this most important aspect of our life, which is the mind. Everything starts with the mind, and that's why I am the self-realization mindset expert. So healing your brain with your mind. I know many a times we get this brain and mind mixed up. We think that they're one and two, like they're interchangeable, but no, they are not. And I want to tell you how you can heal your brain with your mind, the way I'm healing mine, and to tell you the difference between the two. But most importantly, you'll be flabbergasted. I was shocked when I realized that it was the thoughts that I had that actually made up my brain. I've got the brain here and I will tell you a little bit about it. I won't go too technical on you, but I believe we need to know what? Our brain, so that we can control our mind and our thoughts. So healing your brain with your mind. The difference between brain and mind. Let's go there. So the mind works through the brain. It's separate from the brain, but it's also not separate from the brain. So our mind uses the brain, and then the brain responds to the mind. I'll say that again. So our mind, it uses the brain. So the brain is the physical part of it, and we are mostly our mind. So the mind changes the brain. So the mind energy generates, so the mind is energy, and it generates energy through our thinking, our feeling, and our choosing, or the actions that we take. So it's that energy that is our aliveness. So that means that we are our mind. Absolutely. And our mind in action is what generates the energy. So we, again, I'll say it, we generate the energy through our thinking, our feeling, and our choosing. So when we do that, we are building thoughts if you can imagine yesterday, you will remember what happened. And that is a thought. So we are building thoughts. So from my childhood experiences, from yours, we have got a memory bank of thoughts. And I hope that most of your memory that you can remember, the thoughts that you've built into your brain are positive. Some of us have had very negative experiences, and they created the thoughts which become our physical structures in our brains. Yes, so the thoughts that we have, they're the ones that actually create. It's not like it's blank, but it's like building on what's there. It's like we have that memory bank. So when we think, those thoughts, they become the structural aspect within our brains, and they're made of proteins. I'm not going to go into the proteins and the transmitters, the neurotransmitters that form all this, but I just want to enlighten you to show you that how we think affects how we act and affects the biology of our brain. So how we think is vital. So the building of our thoughts that creates that changes in the brain, and that changes in the brain. If you watch some of my other videos, I speak at length about neuroplasticity. So contrary to the belief that by the time we're 25, we can no longer change our brain, that is false, because I'm a living witness. So it's called neuroplasticity when we change the structural biology of our brain. So that's the difference. So the mind is who we are, but our thoughts create that structure that builds up and becomes the brain, part of, the structural aspect. I'm not going to go into, so I'm talking about more like neurons, sort of like long dendrites and everything. You can check. I've got websites at the end. So knowing that your mind and brain is separate, you can control this, control how you behave in some respect, because you now know that actually your thoughts are different to the structure of your brain, but you can learn to manage your thoughts because you know that those thoughts will influence how the structure of your brain is formed. And I know that for a fact. You'll see the last video I posted about peace and how I said I would study and study and study. I was actually named a bookworm. But I could not retain anything because my thoughts that were being formed were negative, and I was not creating the right connections, the right structural connections for the brain to learn new information. Why? Because I was being sexually abused. I was being very negative because everything that happened to me in the past, I'd been introduced to my real biological father at the age of 9. I was devastated that I left my stepfather, who I thought was my father. So you can imagine all the things that were going on in my head, and my thoughts that were meant to be creating new structural connectivities within the brain were faulty. So it means that we can choose what we build into our brain. As a child, that's difficult, and that's why I advocate for childhood sexual abuse to be tackled on head on, because I know what it can cause. So when we learn how to manage our minds, we can make feelings of depression, stress, and anxiety work for us instead of against us. So we can bring back the balance into our brain life, and to our brain and our life. So as I said, the brain is never the same because it changes with the experience we have moment by moment. So we won't say the brain we had yesterday is the one we had today, because there have been new experiences which have created thoughts, and those thoughts have created new structural changes in our brain. Now, whether we've had good thoughts or bad thoughts, that will influence our brain one way or the other. So it's so vital that what we think, what we feel, and what we choose is of good nature. Now, it's all good saying that, and you think, yeah, it's easier said than done, but we have to be very deliberate in ensuring that we seek that peace of mind by choosing what to think about. We have to think of what we're thinking about. That's what I had to do to heal. So it's responsible for how we think, our mind is, how we feel, and our physical brain merely responds to the unique experiences we've had. That's what the brain does. So it's the structure. The mind is the thoughts that have created the brain in terms of the connectivities that are there. It expands. That's why as we grow, we know more. Otherwise, we would not be able to know more if as we're grown, we still had the same brain as we were when we were 2, we'd have it when we were 4. We've got that brain, but we are creating new connections through our thoughts and our unique experiences. So that's the difference. Now, what do researchers say? So according to researchers, the vast majority, in fact, a whopping 75 to 98% of the illnesses that plague us today are the direct result of our thought life. Yep, our thought life. I can say that because growing up, I've had so many operations because I was lowering my immune system as I was growing. I was filled with anger, unforgiveness, but also because I had heightened arousal. You'll see in another video I explain that. My immune system was weakened because the thoughts I was having were negative and the brain structures that I was forming were becoming less and less useful to me and to my body. So I've had so many operations, niche, sort of like ailments and stuff. And that's why I thought, oh my gosh, I've started to learn, let's teach. So what we think about truly affects us both physically and emotionally. In fact, fear alone, just being fearful, as I was fearful almost every night growing up as a teenager, because it was my biological father that abused me as a child, I would be fearful every night. So in fact, fear alone triggers more than 1,000, the researchers say, 1,400 known physical and chemical responses in our bodies. And they activate more than 30 different hormones. I won't go into the hormones, but you can read that up. So today we know our culture is undergoing an epidemic of toxic thoughts. The fear of pandemic, the fear of losing our job, the fear of divorce, the fear of our children, everything. If we leave these all unchecked, we create ideal conditions for illness. That's exactly what we do when we do not heal from deep within. When I in another video, I said peace of mind is getting to your core self. Please check that out. Get into your core self to heal so you can better manage and navigate your way through this life that we're all here to live in. So as a Christian, I have a strong relationship with God. I sort of like went back to God where after so many years when I'd been so disappointed and angry, why were things happening to me? I went back to God and now I have a strong relationship with God. I read my verses and it's riddled with a mind and sound mind. Now, I will read some out to you. And even if you're not a Christian, I would say read the Bible. I read all books. Because why? When you read, you're training your brain to also twist and connect, wire and fire new neurons, what will bring your brain to have a different structure of change, and it will enrich your entire body. So the Bible verses on the mind. So Ephesians 4:22 to 24, it says to put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires. So my personal example, the deceitful desires of someone else who'd abused me was now impacted on my life. But I had to renew my spirit of my mind. So it says to be renewed in the spirit of your mind and to put on your new self. So this is me now wearing my new self, because I knew I had to heal and I had to tell those thoughts to back off. I had to created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness. So I seek to praise God. I seek to do my mission, because this is me being an image bearer of God, to say no to childhood sexual abuse. So Romans 12:2, it says, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewal of your mind, that by testing you may discern what is the will of God, what is good and acceptable and perfect. So that is what I strive to do every day, so that we can bring up a generation of healthy children to become healthy adults. What does Philippians 4:8 say? So I read this every day, even with my daughter, we read it every day, just this bit. So it says here, this is what Paul said to the Philippians. He said, finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is love, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, if there is any worthy of praise, think about these things. You see, it's in the Bible, and I know it's difficult, but by the time we start to train our brain, all the axons, the dendrites, the nucleus of that, it will change the biology of our brain when we have those thoughts. And you will see the synapses and everything within you won't see it, but you'll act upon it because you are choosing a different way. So I'm showing you now my picture of when I was 35. Now, I'm 15 years older today than I was in that picture. And this was me. I had to have a changed mindset to lose the weight that I'd put on over the years. I had to change the biology of my brain by thinking, that is deciding that I could lose weight, and feeling, so separating my emotions from the reality I wanted to be healthy. That's what I wanted. And then I had to choose to eat healthily and to exercise. I had to make a considerate, deliberate action to change. So losing weight, going on diets and that, if it doesn't start with the mind, your intention, you will lose weight, you'll be yo-yo dieting. But I had to start with the mind and start with the end in mind. What did I want to achieve? I wanted to be healthy, and I needed to do the work of God, so I have to stay healthy. So that's me there. Bigger me, thank you. So what are the 4 R's to get you to healing your brain with your mind? So these are the things that I did unintentionally, by the way, so haphazard, no, but after so many years, I've now collated everything that I learned and put it into a program to teach you, so that you don't have to go all through the 15 years that I have been doing whilst I was baking the cake for over so many years. You don't have to do that. And when I was ready, I brought the cake out of the oven, which is my story. So you don't need to go 15 years. Now you can learn from what I did. You don't have to go through horrific experiences that I have before you have experienced trauma. There are different ways. It could be bullying in school. It could be people talking about your nose, your eyes, or a sibling, or a parent, or an uncle, or it could be anything that causes trauma. The devil and the brain knows how to distract you from the goodness that is all within you. So what are the 4 R's to get your healing brain? So to get healing your brain with your mind. So relabel. So the first step from that picture, I had to, for example, think of a thought that's different. So I had to relabel what people were saying about me, like, oh, you're going to be like this because, you're a mistake child, you were sexually abused. This is what the statistics says about that. I had to relabel that thought that was coming to me. My feeling, my behavior, it was an unwanted thought. It was a lie because I knew I could change. So when I have the thoughts, it will come in and I'll think of it as a faulty message. I'll call it a brain lock, and you can step back from that. Yeah. And you're just saying, you know what, that's just a faulty message. So you relabel your thought and then put it on trial, as I always say, and say, no, that's not you. Let it go. Don't wear it as a victim, like this is what's happened to you, so this is your destiny. No, it is not. No, it is not. Okay, so first one is relabel. The next one is reattribute. So in other words, why do these thoughts keep coming back? Well, the brain is used to what it was always used to. It's in the comfort zone. You're doing something new. You're creating new connections. That's not an easy task for the brain to just want to adapt to that. So you have to reattribute and be intentional and say, okay, this is just the brain getting stuck in gear. So when I want to eat a biscuit, when I'd gained all that weight, when I started losing the weight, it would always draw me back to a biscuit. And I'd be like, no, I literally was shaking just when it was 6 o'clock and I wanted to eat. I had to train my brain, my body to say, no, you're not eating. And I would drink water. And then I did that consistently before the brain was then changing, because I had to reattribute that thinking. So then you have to refocus. So you now have to replace the old behavior, my eating, not knowing what I was eating all the way up and thinking that if I'd had all that weight, no one would abuse me. I just put it on and, you know, so I had to refocus. So I had to replace my old behavior to a new behavior. So reading, doing something different. And it was changing without me knowing the brain chemistry. Yes, the brain was now getting used to something of change with that consistency. So because you're creating new patterns in your brain, the new mindset is being created. So by refusing to be misled by the old ways, your mind is now the one in charge of your brain. Yes, not the flesh, not what the flesh wants, not what my tummy wants, but my mind would say, no, sit down, tummy, you are fine. We've got this. We're going to have water. I will not die. I will not starve. You have to refocus your brain. Yeah. And then the fourth one is revalue. So this solidifies everything, the natural outcome of the first three that I've mentioned. So consistency changes old behavior with a new. So you begin to see old patterns as simple distractions when they come. Now, if they come, I'll be like, no, I don't need to have that. I'm going to have a fruit instead. Sometimes, of course, I would, nibble a chocolate or something, but I won't do it every day because my brain has rewired and fired new neurons and it will become uncomfortable. Like if I have sugar now because I don't have it in tea, I will feel very sickly because I'm not used to sugar in tea or in a lot of things. So you have to revalue, but you devalue the things when you are consistent. When you're consistent, like when people said, oh, you're sexually abused, so you must be like this. I devalued the shame by bringing it to my consciousness. Yes, when you bring it to your consciousness, you are what? You are making the shame come to light and it has no more value in your life. That is how shame, guilt and everything. Before I didn't want to make any mistakes, but now I don't mind if I make mistakes. It's fine. It's called taming your ego, controlling yourself. That's what we need to do. So when you devalue those old habits, it completely becomes worthless. And gradually the old thoughts begin to fade in intensity. The brain works better and the automatic transmission in the brain starts to work properly. So that one of my models in my programs is called Meal and Mindset. I implore you to enroll on my program. This is not me looking at a program and embarking on it. This is a journey that I took that has worked. That was, as I said, that was when I was 35. And now this is 2022. I'm going to be 50 this year. I am so grateful I feel that all my youthfulness has come back because I have healed my core self. So Meal and Mindset is one of my programs. So if you want to find out more about the Hush to Roar inner work strategy, come join me, guys. Come join me. This is authentically proven to work for me and it will work for you. You will heal. You will have the peace of mind that surpasses all understanding. So thank you, guys. Again, my program is called Emotional Mind Management. It is for people who have actually abused someone or some people who want to heal from abuse. Because we all, let's face it, if 1 in 4 women get abused before they're 18, children, and 1 in 6 boys get abused before they're 18, then the abusers are out there a lot. And they need to heal so they can have peace. And I'm not judging, but we need to control our mind. so that we all can have peace. And yes, there are websites which are from the peace, so peace, brain and heart balance. You'll see how you can, just study this and see that, yes, you are in control. Don't let that flesh take over and think you need it. No, tame your flesh and say, sit down, just like you tell a dog, sit. I'm in control here. The mind is. I love you guys. And remember that inner child, it has a voice. Do not suppress it. What are you going to do? You're going to let it roar. Thank you guys for watching.